everyone, and welcome to Chronic Briefs. Today, we are doing another interview episode, and we have the honor to have with us Lene Andersen, who is a friend of mine. We've known each other for a while. She writes for Health Central. She's a photographer. She lives in Toronto, okay? And she has written a myriad of books, including Your Life with Rheumatoid Arthritis, Tools for Managing Treatment, Side Effects and Pain, Seven Facets, a Meditation on Pain. And, you also did an advent calendar, which I saw, which was very clever. I want to talk about that a little bit later. And you also have a memoir that you're writing now. She also writes the award-winning blog, The Seed of You, which I love that name. I got to be honest. I want to steal it. It's such a good name, The Seed of You. Even your logo is like, it's so classy. I love it. And she does an interview series called Chronic Journeys, which we'll probably be having a guest soon. Maybe. Tell us a little bit about your, I guess, the whole elevator pitch, your life with RA, how it started, that sort of thing.
Well, I've lived with rheumatoid arthritis for, first symptoms came when I was 4 years old, and I developed, it was really bad. It was in the time of no treatment, what I call the dark age of rheumatology,
Yeah,
which you know
I
very
know
well.
very well. Yes,
Yeah.
it was the dark age.
And so by age 16, I had two hip replacements and a power wheelchair, which got me out of the hospital and back and home to live, and attempt normal as
Yeah.
life as possible, which has been a really good life, but it has not been without its challenges. So at a certain point, after a really bad flare, I decided that it was time to pursue my lifelong dream of being a writer instead of the safer alternative. And and I kind of decided to blend that with a way to help other people with rheumatoid arthritis and other types of chronic illness have shortcuts to live a better life, because there isn't a lot of information out there. Well, there's
Yeah,
more now
there's
than
more
when I
now,
got
but yeah.
started 15 years ago. But it seemed like everybody has to do the same journey and with the same dead ends and the same
Yeah.
uh, really steep learning curve. And I thought if I could help people get there faster, that would be a really good way to use all those decades
100%.
of life with RA. So
Yeah.
I started writing a book, and I also got hired for Health Central, which where I've been writing for them
For
for 12
a
years
while now,
now.
yeah.
My newest role is as a columnist, which is fun because I get to be opinionated, and I have plenty of those. So
As do we all. You're talking
yeah,
about shortcuts, and something I found is that people with RA, people with chronic illnesses in general, but especially people with RA, I tell you, we are some of the most resourceful. I mean, I have a way where if I can't get my hip up high enough to put my sock on, I use a back scratcher that I hooked a fork up to try to get my sock on. I mean,
yeah.
100%. And we come up with these ways, and you're right. We try to share them with people because it seems like we do end up in the same dead ends. That's a good way to put it. I like the way you put that. Is that what led you to start, writing? Just the fact of, I mean, because God, you are prolific. I have to be honest. I am envious. You have written so much. I wrote one book, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do that again. So,
Well, admittedly, I it's been a while since I've had a book out, partly because it is exhausting.
yeah,
Uh, I've always wanted to be a writer ever since, like, I think I don't actually remember the first time I thought of it. So I suspect it's the minute I figured out that people tell those magical stories, that it's not just, magic that somebody came up with it. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And then I, I kind of got sidetracked on the day job, the safe day job thing,
yeah,
which turned out in after a couple of years not to be so safe at all. And then I was unemployed for a long time and just basically lived my life, which was great. But after my really big flare, where I came really close to not making it, one of several times, I figure I have
Yeah.
9 lives like a cat. But coming out of that, it very much felt like I had been given a second chance, and you got to take those seriously.
A hundred
And
percent.
that's when I thought, okay, it's time.
100%. I've been there myself, and hey, it was surreal, and that was right around the time when I started writing more as like kind of like a last resort, where it's funny. I'm kind of the opposite of you. I always was like, oh, English class, no. I'd rather do math. I'd rather do science, where I know there's a right answer. You know what I mean? And I never thought I'd be a writer, but
Yeah,
right around when I was 30 years old, just things went horribly wrong, and
yeah,
I couldn't find any relief. And someone was like,
yeah.
people say writing helps, and I'm like,
It
I'll
does.
try anything. And
Yeah,
exactly right, it does. And
yeah,
just like you, I found a calling in helping people,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that's great. And so, tell us about this new. You're working on a memoir, right?
I am. I actually, through a very unusual confluence of events, I actually found myself an agent last year.
That's amazing. Not an
Everything I
easy
have.
thing to do. That's congratulations.
No, and I wasn't actually looking for one. It's sort of like a silver platter moment, and it was really right place, right time. Um, but everything I have published until now has been as an independent
Right.
author, which means not through a traditional publishing company for many reasons, which is a completely different conversation. But so I found this agent, and there's this whole move right now on what's called own voices that actually, um, where there's a bit of a movement for people in various minorities to actually tell their own stories.
Okay. That's great.
So we had a chat, and it became a memoir, which I am now struggling with because it's a completely different genre. So there's much to learn. And then there's that whole, well, I don't actually remember 40 years ago very well. So, so you got to dig through all the
Yeah.
memories, many of these memories I've spent a lot of effort suppressing.
I
So,
I know
so
exactly
it's
what
you
you
got to
mean.
find them again, right?
I know, and it's funny because when the book I did write was about growing up with RA,
Hmm.
as we were talking earlier, my friends read it, which I didn't expect all my friends to read it, and I got a lot of, huh. I don't remember it happening that way, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, and then suddenly I'm like, did I remember it wrong? But then it's like that's what I
Well,
remember, you know?
yeah, well, and I think everybody remembers things differently.
Yeah.
There is no such like if you've ever read oh, Stranger in a Strange
Okay.
Land
Yeah.
by Heinlein, right? Where there's the idea of that everybody sees things
Right.
differently. So and I forget, there's a true witness, I think the name of it is,
Yes.
that who will, if they're looking at a barn, they will say they're looking at a barn and this wall is red. And they say, well, isn't the whole barn red? And they go, no, I can only see this wall, right?
Right, and
So,
plus, from our point of view, through the eyes of someone with chronic illness,
exactly,
someone with
right?
a wheelchair, it's someone with an illness. It could be both things are true.
Well, and I think we're finding that right now, like as more different minorities are actually sharing their stories, is that our experience of the world is so very different
Yeah,
from your basic privileged person.
it is, and I had to learn. Actually, I had to teach myself how, like we said, I had to teach myself how to hear someone else's story and not automatically assume like, oh well, they probably just saw it wrong or whatever. That we could have a completely different experience, and both of us, yeah, maybe right's not the wrong word, but both of us did experience that in the way that we're
Oh,
describing it. You
absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. There's your side, there's my side, and then there's what really happened.
Right, right, 100%. So listen, before we get into the questions, I have to ask you because I saw you put out Chronic Christmas Advent Calendar for dealing with RA, and I have to be honest. The first thing I thought was, Is there pills in it instead of candy? Because that would be great. I'd be like, you put out a calendar with pills in it at Christmas drinking time? You are a Mother Teresa, my friend. No, but
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's on many people's wish list right now. Actually, it is a book.
it is a
It
book.
is
Okay.
not an actual calendar, but it is the gift each day, if you will, is a chapter that talks about how you can enjoy Christmas in a way that doesn't wreck you. So you end up in a flare on the big
It's
day.
so clever.
And each chapter contains a tip for the person who lives with a chronic illness and a tip for their family and friends who want to help but don't know what to do. Because I think one of the big issues is that everybody who cares about you comes up and says, just let me know if I can help.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you sit there and you go, I don't know what I need. Right. And so this book is 25 plus tips on what you can actually practically do to help
It is.
someone
I love it.
that you love.
So clever. And exactly what you said. I remember I was at a get together, well, when we were still having get togethers. And it was like about 6 to 8 months after chemo. And there was 8 or 9 people there. After about the seventh person was like, Dan, you okay? What do you need? I literally said, everyone, please, you have to stop asking me if I'm okay. I promise
Yeah.
you, if I need something, I'll ask you for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's like all of a sudden you become this fragile
Yeah,
thing,
right?
right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, guys, please, I'm here because I just want to go back to, I want to forget about all that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's like the biggest gift you can give, other than some practical assistance when the person needs it. But the biggest gift you can give is just be normal.
yes, 100%. That is on everyone's Christmas list for next year if you if you need a gift. Okay,
Yeah.
what is the most absurd or embarrassing thing that you've experienced due to your illness? And I know that you probably have a couple of things like we all do, but what do you
A
think?
few. A few. I was thinking of this, and it's like I have forgotten many of them, quite frankly, because there are many. But and many of them are self-inflicted, such as the time when, after not having been near a beach for a couple of decades, I was near one and thought that somehow sand had changed its physical properties and drove out on it, gradually sinking down, right? And kind of going, oh, okay, maybe that was stupid. But I think one of the biggest thing is I've used a power wheelchair since I was 16,
Right.
and I'm on my sixth, seventh, I forget. And the and normally they're just a tool, but a couple of chairs ago, I had a wheelchair that the word lemon does not begin to describe it. It would randomly lose power when I was crossing a street on a sidewalk in front of several large trucks.
Oh my
It would
God.
also randomly, as I'm, booting home, all of a sudden start doing donuts crazily. And and it took forever to find out. It wasn't, I think, until I was actually in a repair shop. I was sitting in the chair. They were doing the work. We turned it on, and it did that thing. And everybody panicked. Like I figured out by then because it happened so many times. I knew how to deal
How
with
to
it. So you
stop
just
it?
turn
Yeah.
it off, right? And everybody around me, there's these strapping young men looking at me completely pale, going, "Oh my God, did you see that? She's completely calm about it." I'm like going, yeah, and done it before. So we found out that particular model needed, um, anytime you did something that involved a connection to the motors, they needed to be recalibrated
I'm
because
just
otherwise it would do donuts randomly. Like that,
I'm just
it
picturing
was.
you in the middle of a crosswalk, like just
Oh yeah,
just just like doing 360s while people are like,
yeah,
what's happening?
yeah,
It's just like a truck
yes,
barreling down
yes,
on you, like trying to figure out what's
yeah.
going on.
And the thing is, like every time it did it, I would have to turn it off and then wait and then turn it
Oh
back
my
on. And it
God.
always takes a while.
When in
Well,
doubt, turn it off and turn it back on again. Yeah.
absolutely, right? But it's like when you turn it on, it takes a couple of seconds
Yeah.
and there you are in the middle of the street, waiting, going, hi,
Oh my God,
just
that
wait, I'll
is,
be right out of here, I hope. Right? So I think that's the
yeah,
thing.
that is
It actually,
perfect.
there were so many things wrong with that chair. I ended up naming it Regan after the girl in The Exorcist. And
And it
and I
also
s-
spun around just like her head.
exactly. And it actually got known by name in the shop of the people who did my repair. That when they heard, oh yeah, Lene Andersen's chair is coming in, everybody would be going, oh shit. So yeah, that was
Oh,
infamous.
that's perfect. You know, perfect to let people know that, like, this is why I ask these questions, so that people know that it's not all just always doom and gloom. You know, that we have these absurd, just crazy moments, just like everybody else. And I
Yeah,
always
yeah.
felt it's important for people to know that. So that's a perfect
Oh, and
story
I
about
think
it.
sometimes they're absurd, sometimes they're funny, and sometimes they're downright
Yeah, of
terrifying.
course.
but
Sometimes they're down to
uh,
terrifying.
but they're funny afterwards.
Exactly. They're funny. What is it? Tragedy plus time equals comedy, I think is the saying. And that, yeah,
Exactly.
for us, that's like life. Okay.
Mm.
Talk about an instance that sticks out in your mind where your illness slash disability allowed you to help someone and make the world a better place. But I think with all your books and everything, I'm sure you have and your writing, and I mean, you probably have too many answers to that question. But if you had to pick one that sticks out in your mind.
Actually, I can't choose just one.
Okay.
I think
You don't have to.
having kind of made it my life's calling to give other people like what they might not find through the healthcare system and stuff. I do get emails and messages occasionally that basically said, "Thanks for this. I really needed that," and
I love
it
those
always
emails.
makes my day.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. 100%.
but I think one of the things about having a chronic illness is you really come to understand the healthcare system and you become an expert in navigating it, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
it is a Byzantine obscure
It's no
place that
better here in
requires
America, believe me.
no, it's anywhere, right? And I
Anywhere.
think it gives us a unique set of skills. And I think often we feel like we're just on the receiving end of help, but it can be something that where we can really help others. And I've done it a couple of times. For instance, with my mother who went in for surgery, and she's busy being in pain and post surgery. And it meant that because I know how to work the system and to get her what she needs, I can step in, take over. I know the right people to talk to. I know what quality, how somebody gets some home care after surgery, etc. And it's knowledge I used a couple of times, but just being able to just help
Yep,
my mom and kind of give back for all the help she gave me
100%.
was something.
Must have felt good. I know what
Yeah,
that's like. Being
did.
able to give something back to the caretaker, which was my mom as well. So, okay, finally, and most importantly, what is something good, something positive that has come for you from having a chronic illness, disability? Something for you
Um,
personally.
I often say, like when people throw around like metaphorical ideas such as, what would you do if you could go back in time and choose not to have RA?
I can't answer that
And I
anymore.
always, well, A, I can't answer that, but I always kind of say, I don't necessarily think I would have changed anything. And that's about when people's heads throw
Right?
off
Yeah.
in shock, right? But RA is so much part of what has shaped me
I know.
and the life I have. And I like myself and I love my life. And I don't think I would change
That's
anything. It's like that.
exactly what
And
I
I think,
think.
hmm,
That's exactly the same thing I think. To the point where someone asked me the question and they expected, like I said, so, if you could change one thing and go back, a genie or whatever, what would you wish? And I said, of course I would wish, to be taller. And the guy's head was like, you know,
yeah,
but you're right.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
afraid I'd lose the me, like exactly what you
yeah,
were saying.
yeah. It's the me. It's the way my life is. It's the people I've met. It's like I don't think, for instance, I would be in Canada if I didn't have RA because when my parents decided to come over here from Denmark for a couple of years, it was part of the reason I came with was because didn't really have any other options. And it was about one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So it's and everybody I've met both in real life and in the online community, which is like the online chronic illness community is like coming home, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
So
It really is.
so and without that, I would yeah, I wouldn't be me without it.
100%. So, Lene Andersen, thank you. You have been an amazing guest. I couldn't have asked for
Thank
a
you.
better guest. The Seated View, give us the website address. That's obviously the Seated View. Of
Theseatedview.com.
course, like exactly like it sounds. Your memoir is coming. Is this year, you think, or maybe next year?
Oh, I'm going to be lucky. I don't know. I
Okay.
haven't.
Well,
I'm still working on the outline,
all right.
so on
Well,
the
I know how
proposal.
that goes.
So I think, but I may have a couple of other things coming
Well,
out
we'll
this
keep.
year.
I'm sure you'll keep us informed about
I
it on
will
your blog
indeed.
and Chronic Journeys, the interview series that you're doing, which is wonderful.
It's on my Facebook page,
And that
which you
comes
can
out
find through my
once
website.
a month. You said?
Um, it started once a week,
Yeah,
and I
I know.
finally realized that was nuts. So
Yep.
it's yes, once a month.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank
being here
you for
with us,
having me.
and it was great to talk to you. Everyone, remember new Chronic Briefs again at the end of this month, and thank you to Lene. And remember, as always, folks, be kind, rewind, keep on keeping on, and we'll talk soon.